Hello, everyone, and welcome to Soul with Lisa Scholz, a video series about mediumship, psychic phenomenon, energy healing, and much, much more. My name is Lisa. I am a professional psychic medium. I'm also an energy healer utilizing body talk, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. Today, we are going to be talking about astrological natal charts, what they are, and why you may want to get one for yourself. So my guest is Brandi Kahn, who is a fellow medium, and she's also training with Maggie Kerr on how to analyze astrological natal charts. Brandi is also a fellow professional medium. She's a Reiki master and a certified angel practitioner. She always had a connection with spirit since she was young, but she did not actively develop as a medium until a few months before her father's unexpected passing. Following a life-altering communication from spirit, delivering messages from the spirit realm became Brandi's life purpose. Brandi has been a featured guest on Hay House Radio with her mentor, James Van Praagh, and a contributing author of the book, When Angels Speak. In addition, she has also taught classes on angels and spirituality. Brandi is also a skilled Arcturian healer, which is a healing modality from the star system Arcturus. So thank you so much, Brandi, for being here today. I really, really appreciate it. This is going to be an interesting talk because I don't know a whole lot about astrology, admittedly, I don't.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa, first of all, for having me. And I'm excited to be here to really talk more about astrology because it's something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I always tell people it's more like a science. There's so much to it. It can be very complicated.
Yes.
So you are training right now with Maggie Kerr, all about astrological natal charts, which are birth charts is what a lot of people
birth charts,
call them, birth charts. So what exactly is a birth chart, and why would we want to get one?
Okay. So first of all, like a birth chart or a natal chart, it's almost like someone took a snapshot of the heavens at the minute that you were born. And at that particular moment when you were born, the sun was in a certain place, the moon was in a certain place, and Mercury, and all of the planets were in a particular place. Okay. And, you know, depending on where they are in your chart, depending on which house they are in or where they are in relationship to each other, you come in with certain personality characteristics, maybe certain abilities, gifts, interests, certain challenges that you may face. And that's what makes a natal chart so incredibly interesting. And, you know, a lot of people, they decide to get a natal chart reading just really for more self-understanding, to really find out why they are the way they are, what makes me tick, what motivates me, you know, what's my emotional state like, different things like that. That's why people usually will get a natal chart reading, because then from that self-understanding comes self-appreciation, like a really, really deep form of appreciation. And I can give you an example. I never understood why, you know, like throughout life, I've always been somebody who likes to walk rather quickly, and I talk quickly, and I use my hands when I talk. And you know, at one point I was like, gosh, why am I like this? Why can't I just slow down a minute, speak slower, and stop, you know, gesturing so much? Well, so when Maggie, you know, first introduced me to astrology, she read my chart, and, you know, I'd gone through life thinking, okay, I'm a Leo. My sun sign's Leo, and then, you know, that's really all there is about me. And that's a very big misconception. Your sun sign, your moon sign, and your rising sign, I affectionately call them the Holy Trinity. Those are the top three, okay? Right?
Okay.
So, yeah, so with the rising sign, your rising sign is how you come off or how you come across to other people, how you present yourself, okay?
Okay.
My rising sign, even though my sun is in Leo, I'm a Gemini rising. So a lot of the way that I'm shaped, the way that I move, the way that I think and talk, it's very like a Gemini. Okay. Like, and one thing about the sign of Gemini, it rules the arms and the hands. So people like in sun sign Gemini or Gemini rising, we tend to use our hands a lot when we talk. We use our
Okay.
whole bodies to communicate. So just learning that little thing about me, I'm like, oh, now I know why I am the way I am. And there was a deeper appreciation for who Brandi is. And I'm like, well, I don't have to change myself to be like anyone else.
This is already who you are.
Yes.
You just didn't
This is the,
realize
yeah,
it.
this
It
is the
didn't make,
way that I'm wired. Yes.
yeah,
It's the way that I'm wired. Yes.
yeah. Oh, that makes so much sense because as you were talking, I'm thinking of a client that I've had in the past who she was or is a Libra, but she acts just like a Virgo. I mean, just like a Virgo. And I know it's close. Libra is right
Uh-huh.
behind Virgo. But I'm always like, are you sure that your moon is not in Virgo? Because she acts just like one, but I bet it's her rising sign.
Oh,
I
yeah,
bet
it
it's
could
her
be her
rising
rising
sign.
sign. Yeah, and your rising sign, a lot of people don't understand the significance of it. It's called the rising sign or the ascendant. It's how you come across to other people. So if I'm meeting you, Lisa, for the first time, for the first 5 minutes, that we're getting acquainted with each other, you will come across to me more than likely as your rising sign. Then maybe
Okay.
10 or 15 minutes later, I'll begin to see, traces or glimpses of your sun sign. And then if you're feeling really comfortable with me and you allow yourself to be vulnerable, then I can see the moon sign.
Okay. Okay. So we all know what the sun sign is. That's if you were born, in this certain area, you're a Virgo. If you're born in, February, March, you're Pisces. We all get that. And then the rising sign is something else depending on the planet. Can you talk a little bit about what the moon sign is? Because I think a lot of
Yeah.
people don't know what the moon sign is either.
Yeah, yeah. So your moon sign, the moon has a lot to do with your feeling nature, your emotions, what it is
Okay.
that makes you feel safe and secure. So, for example, I'll give you another example and use myself.
Okay.
My moon is in the sign of Leo. So I've got Sun Leo and Moon Leo.
Okay.
So, one of the things that makes me feel really secure as a person is to feel appreciated and validated. That's a Leo thing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
To
Mm-hmm.
feel as if somehow um, people are noticing what I am doing and they appreciate it.
Yep.
That,
Yep.
that's a Leo thing. So that gives me that gives me a sense of comfort. Also, being able to be creative because Leo is a very creative sign. So when I sit down there to the piano or I'm feeling really creative and listening to music or in that vein, that also gives me a sense of emotional security as
Okay.
well. Yeah.
Okay, so being creative is
Yeah.
very like emotion, it provides you with emotional security,
Yeah.
being validated that people appreciate you
Yes.
and like your work, those kind of things.
Yes. Yes.
So as you're talking, I'm thinking of a very famous Leo, which is Madonna.
Oh, yeah.
So if that gives people a grander scale of what a Leo is, I mean, she's always in front of the camera. If anyone
Yeah.
follows her on Instagram or Facebook or whatever, all the social media platforms,
Yeah.
she's someone who needs to, I followed her for a while and I was like, wow, she really needs to be,
Yeah.
on camera and get feedback from people all the time. So like you
Mhm.
said, it's a Leo thing. And then you're a double Leo, right? Because your sun
Double Leo.
is
Yeah.
in, so whenever your sun and your moon is in the same sign, you're a
Mhm.
double.
Yeah, that's you're born under the phase of a new moon. So if somebody has their sun and moon in the same sign, that means that when they were born, the lunar phase, the moon was a new moon. Yeah, yeah. And
Okay.
so one life lesson that I'll add also for Leos, because sometimes we really like the validation and we feel like we need it.
Yeah.
One life lesson for Leos though is to learn how to give yourself the validation that you seek from others.
Okay. Yeah. It all
Yeah.
has to come in from inside.
Yes.
Yep. It's not
Yes.
out there. You have to really work on the inside. And that's
Right.
true for all of
Exactly.
us for so many things is,
Right.
we've got to fix the inside.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's interesting. Okay. So the astrological natal chart it talks about more things than just the sun and the moon and the rising sign, right?
Right.
So like, can you break it down? Like, what is it? I think, when you and I had talked,
Sure.
we were talking about like, there's houses and things like that. So can you kind of take us through a little bit of that?
Sure, sure. Like, so the astrological chart, the natal chart, it's like a circle, 360 degrees, and it's
Okay.
divided into 12 different parts. And those 12 different parts are called houses, and they each represent a certain area of life. Okay, so I'm going to pull up
Okay.
Oprah Winfrey's natal chart.
Okay.
Okay, are you able to see that?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay,
Yep.
and voila, we've got Oprah. Oprah's
Okay.
natal chart right here. So just looking at hers, it looks really complicated. But like I mentioned, you know, these boxes right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way to 12, these are known as the houses, okay? And you've
Okay.
got planets that show up in certain ones, which in certain houses, which I'll explain in a minute. But just very briefly, I'll tell you what each of the houses means. So
Okay.
the first house right here, this is the house of self. This is where we can see a lot about the first impression that you make on others, maybe your appearance, your body type, and in general, your approach to life. The
Okay.
second house is the house of money, possessions, finances, what we really value, and we can even see some things in that house sometimes dealing with self-worth, self issues like that, self-esteem. The
Mm-hmm.
third house is the house of my mind and my mouth, how I speak, how I think, okay? The house of communication. And we can also see within the third house, you know, if there's some, how the relationships are with siblings, if there's a lot of short distance traveling that you do. All right. The
Okay.
fourth house right here, this is the house of home and family. The fifth house is the house of what we do for fun, what we do to feel creative. And one of the highest forms of creativity is that of like having children. So many times you can see things or references to children within the fifth house. Okay. Right here, the sixth house, that's the house of daily routine, daily work habits, our health, small pets, all in there. The seventh house is the house of like relationships, marriages, partnerships, business partnerships. Also, what we look for in a partner and how we relate to the general public. All righty.
Mm-hmm.
The eighth house up here, this is the house of intimacy, shared finances, loans, inheritances, and also some things that are metaphysical in nature can be found there as well, references to those.
Okay.
The ninth house is the house of like higher ideals, beliefs, the higher mind, higher education, religion, traveling, writing, all of that's in the ninth.
Mm-hmm.
Right here in the 10th house, this is the house of career, our public public reputation, what people think of us, you know, in the career sense or in what we're doing, like, you know, in life. The 11th house is the group of, I'm sorry, the 11th house is the house of friends, friendships, groups that we may belong to, our hopes and wishes. And
Mm-hmm.
then the 12th house, the last one. I love the 12th house because you can see references to spirituality there, the subconscious, the dream state, intuitive abilities, things like that within the 12th. So each of these areas represents, you know, these houses represents a certain area of life. And I'll just show you very quickly with Oprah, okay?
Okay.
Here in her house of money, you see we've got 3 planets and then the part of fortune here, right?
Okay.
So now planets show up in houses where more than likely the chart holder is going to spend a lot more time and energy focused on that area of life, okay? So
Oh, okay. That's
yes,
interesting because as you were talking earlier, and I'm looking at house 3 for her, which is all about, like you said, communication.
communication,
There's
yes.
nothing in there, and that's what she does. She's a communicator. So I thought
Yes,
that's interesting, but maybe that just comes naturally for her, and that's not something she really has to focus on because it's just natural for her.
well, so, okay, you can look at the third house of communication, or you can also look at the planet Mercury for Oprah. Mercury is the planet of communication that naturally rules the third house, you know, like in a natural chart. So
Oh, okay.
so there's nothing in her third house. Let's take a look at where Mercury is. Ah, voila. Mercury is in the house of money, talking for money, speaking for money, communicating for money, you
Oh,
know?
that makes sense. Okay.
Yes, and then
Okay.
one other thing I'll show you. So right over here in her house of daily work, daily routine,
Uh-huh.
we've got the sign of Gemini. Now, Gemini is ruled by the planet Mercury. Gemini is the sign of communication. So right here on the cusp of the 6th house of her daily work, she's a communicator, she's a
Yes.
teacher in that
Yes.
way,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And then to top it all off, if we go up here to her 10th house of career, we see we've got the planet Neptune up here. Neptune is a very inspirational, spiritual, creative planet there. So we can tie it all together and say, okay, well, communicating or talking as a way of making money, and then in daily life, communicating and teaching and doing it in a very inspirational way. You
That's
see that?
her.
Yeah,
That is
that's her.
her.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting. So for a layperson like me, I
Yes.
just pointed out, well, there's nothing in the third house, which is, you
Right.
said, communication. But then as you explain it, I can
Right.
really see how many layers there are
Right.
to
Yes.
this natal chart, because
Right.
it's all connected. And obviously with all these triangles you have in there, it's all connected.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's why I love
Wow.
astrology. I love it.
And it looks, truly, to me, it looks very complicated. I mean, I can see why it takes a while to get trained in something
Yeah.
like this.
It's
But
very, yeah,
okay,
very precise. Yeah, very precise.
absolutely, absolutely. So, how do you prepare a natal chart for somebody? So, someone just calls and say, "Hey, I want a natal chart. You need
Uh-huh.
certain information," and then
Mhm.
what goes into preparing a chart for somebody?
Okay, so the first thing that I'll ask for when someone asks for a natal chart, there's three pieces of information that I need. I need the date of birth, I need the exact time of birth. That's very important. And then also the place of birth. So like the city, state, or wherever in the world they were born, I need that location. Okay.
Okay.
Once you plug that all in on the computer, then the chart comes up. What I like to do, for those that understand astrology, when I say I've got 5 planets in Virgo, I have 5 planets in Virgo, so I tend to be very detailed, analytical, and very meticulous. So what I then like to do, I like to pick apart the chart, like, and take my time with it and analyze everything and write down everything that my client needs to know. So it takes me about 4 to 5 days, but I really I like that way of just working and throwing myself into it and analyzing everything that could
Yeah.
possibly, that needs to be said.
Yeah. So I'm a Virgo. My
Ah,
son's sign is in Virgo, so I totally appreciate that about you, because it is
yeah,
fun to really analyze and get into the details of things and to have it
yeah,
all meticulously laid out. I think
yeah,
that's great. That's great. So,
yeah.
okay, so why would someone want to get a natal chart? I mean, I know we touched on it a little bit earlier, but why would someone say, "Hey, maybe I should get this done"?
Mm. So maybe like if in life you're going through a particular challenge and you're not sure, why does this keep coming up for me? Like, why is this an issue for me? There's something about seeing it in a natal chart and understanding, okay, this is a part of my path to deal with this. It really helps you to shift your focus from feeling like a victim and why does this keep happening to me? And then you're able to reframe it and see, oh, okay, I see it. This is a life lesson for me. This is something that I came in to work on. And it's very empowering in a sense to
Okay.
see things from that way. Also, I've had parents who've requested birth charts for their preteens or teenagers, just so that they can have an appreciation for who their child is as an individual being, right?
Okay.
I've got 4 children. I cannot parent them all the same.
Right.
I have
Right.
one child that is, a Cancer sun, and then also water sign moon, and he's very emotional. And
Mhm.
I can't be very, very, demanding of him. I've got to be a little bit more in touch with my emotions when I'm dealing with him. But then I've got another child who's got a sun and a moon and an earth sign, and I have to deal with that child in a different way than than my other son. So it's there's so much information that you can get as far as how can I be a better parent to my child? What do I need to give them to help them feel secure? Are there artistic talents there, athletic abilities that maybe, should I put them in swimming or should we do theater and art or music?
Right.
All of that can show up these potentials. And I really want to highlight that about a natal chart. It's not fated. Nothing in a birth chart is fated. It's pure potentiality. So, for example, we saw Oprah had 3 really good planets and her part of fortune in her house of money, right? Well, let's just say that Oprah decided a long time ago just to kind of sit on the couch and not really apply herself and not really strive and work hard. Then that potential of being like a really, good earner and earning a lot financially, that would not have come into fruition. So, like with the birth chart, it's all about potential, but you've got to put in the work and you've got to
Right.
apply yourself.
Yep, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense. I never thought about it, from the perspective of a parent looking at their child through the astrological lens, right? I mean, I think
Right.
parents, we realize that our children are not all the same. They come in with very different personalities, and
Yeah.
one way of parenting may work with one child and not the
Hmm.
other. But
Hmm.
really, what you're saying with the astrological chart is that provides parents with knowing this is who my child is.
Yes.
This is just who they
Yes.
are, like
Yes.
truly, and this is their potential. And this is the direction that they can go in life. And I can help nourish them. And they may all be
Yes.
going in different directions. So that's really
Exactly. Yeah.
interesting to think about.
May
And
I share? Oh, sorry.
I would think that that would really help some parents to sort of settle in to who their kids are, because maybe some
Yes.
parents don't understand their child. Let's say you have a parent who's really into sports and athletics, and they have
Yeah.
a kid who's into theater, and they're pushing up
Exactly.
against that all the
Exactly.
time. Well, maybe their birth chart is saying theater is what they're destined to do and what they should be doing.
Exactly. Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. It really can help you as a parent to honor who your child is and to honor their path. Like, so for example, my daughter, her sun's in Capricorn, her moon is also in an earth sign. So she's got that earth, flavor of her chart. She loves to garden. She loves to garden. She's got a garden. She grows tomatoes and strawberries and
Yep.
flowers. None
Mhm.
of the other kids are interested in that, but that's who she is.
Mhm.
That's who she is. And
Yeah.
then I have another child who is very, very talkative and likes to share information and likes to talk about, what's going on in the world. Even though he's 10 years old, you look at his chart and you see it, and that's who he is.
Yeah, yeah, that's so interesting. And even if we move it away from children, but to ourselves, I think that
Yes.
we can all relate to you. Maybe you're more of an introvert, or your planet
Mhm.
is in a certain, house, but you don't think of things that way. But you
Mhm.
see someone who's an extrovert, or who has a ton of friends, and you think, gosh, I wish I was a little bit more like them, or
Yes.
why can't I just be a little bit more like them, or I mean, that's just one example. But
Mhm.
maybe in your chart, and I'm thinking it's likely that it's in your
Mhm.
chart, that you're supposed to be how you most naturally feel,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Maybe that can help people with some self acceptance as well.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, so for example, I'll use myself as an example again. In my birth chart, I've got my sun square means 90 degrees away from the planet Uranus, right?
Okay.
That's a tough angle, and sometimes the way it can manifest, especially when I was younger, the way that it manifested for me was I always felt as if I didn't quite fit in. I always felt like the weird one, the different one that never could somehow blend into the group and fit in, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I never understood why. And then when Maggie took me through my chart and said, "Oh, this is why you've had these experiences," then I really understood why I don't quite fit in and blend in. Because with someone who's Sun square Uranus, like me, we're called the awakeners. We're here to share new ideas with people, to awaken them, to new things and to think in different ways. So all of that I went through, it was for a reason. Had I blended in, I probably wouldn't be comfortable doing what I do now, because as an astrologer, as a medium, you can't blend in. You're different.
That's true. You are
You're just
different.
different, right?
Yep.
So if I had blended in and I fit in with everybody else, it'd be a lot more uncomfortable for me to be who I really came here to be,
Yeah.
you know?
That makes perfect sense. It
Yeah.
really does. It does. So can I ask you? So the social worker in me wants to ask this question. When you saw your chart, did that how did that make you feel when you were like,
Oh
oh,
gosh. Yeah. I can't even tell you. It was even more, it was deeper than self-appreciation. It was almost like this love for who I am.
Oh,
And it's like all the pieces of the puzzle finally fit together, and I understood everything about me and why I am the way that I am and why I operate the way that I operate, because it was all really towards my life purpose. It was going to help me in the end. So it was just like this deep form, this of self-love that just really
yeah.
came to the surface. And I love who I am. When I look at my chart and I think about my life experiences, I love everything about myself.
Oh,
Everything
the
about
chart.
myself. Yeah, it's very empowering.
That's it. That's the word. So
Yeah.
it made you feel empowered. You
Yes.
accepted yourself and you felt empowered by this information that came from this chart.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So does the chart show, so it shows characteristics of who you are, but does it also show any struggles that you may have, any complications that you, challenges that you may go through that you keep seeing in your life? Does the chart reveal those types of things as well?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, with my sun square Uranus, that was the challenge of never fitting
Okay,
in, right?
that's the challenge.
That,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And so just because that challenge shows up doesn't mean that you will deal with it for the rest of your life, or that you're destined to always have this problem, you know?
Okay.
Once you really know what's going on and you understand why it's going on, and you're able to work through the lesson and understand the lesson, you can come out on the other side a lot stronger, from
Yes.
going through that. So from where
Okay.
I am, not fitting in and learning to accept myself, it'd be easier now for me to reach back and help someone else going through that same problem, because I've already been through it. So it's almost like a shift that happens. You go through it and you learn the lessons and you become stronger, and then you're able to help others heal the same things within their own lives.
Okay. Yes, that makes perfect sense. It really
Yeah.
does. So, can you share a story with us about someone whose life may have been changed or shifted in a positive way because
Yeah.
they had a natal chart done?
Sure. Okay. So I had this wonderful lady send me her information and ask for a natal chart reading. I'd never met her before. I didn't know her. I didn't know what her home situation or family situation was like. But I remember, as I'm going through everything, trying to get, her chart information ready for her, I got to the fifth house where you can see clues about children. And I don't remember the exact placement that she had, but
Hmm.
I remember, researching it and looking it up, and I was like, ooh, there's not a lot of energy or focus or time that she's going to devote to children. There's something here about, not a lot of time to children that I may have, or the energy and the focus is not there. And I was really nervous about telling her that or sharing that with her, because
Hmm.
I didn't know if she already had children or she wanted children. So
Right.
I remember the next day when I'm during the session, and I'm trying to be very gentle. And I ask her, do you have children? And she says no. And then I said, well, do you want children? And she said, oh, absolutely not. I've never wanted children. And, I was like, oh, I understand. I was like, in your chart, it's right here with this particular placement. There was not going to be a lot of energy, life energy, and focus that was going to be given to children. And she said that was like one of the biggest, reliefs that she had, because people had always told her, you should have children. You should have
Yeah. Hmm.
children, and why don't you want children? She never wanted them. Why don't you want children? And she always felt as if something was wrong with her. So she walked away from that, and she said, that's one of the best things ever. I never understood why I felt the way that I felt. And I'm like, well, it's all in your natal chart, it's all there. So now you understand that, the path of being a mother may not be your path, and that's completely okay. That's
Yes.
completely
Yes.
okay for you.
Hmm. But we live in a society where women are still, in many ways, expected to want children or to be motherly, but not
Right.
all women are. I think men tend to get more of a pass on that still to
Right.
this day. But women, we kind of wonder, oh, she's in her 40s. Why didn't she have children? Even those little thoughts. But, maybe for people who don't want children, it is in their chart, and that is
Right.
why. And
Right,
that's why.
exactly, exactly. And there's one other thing I'd like to share about
Mhm.
that. Um,
Okay.
One of the things that I've learned most through reading different charts is that we cannot judge other people because we truly do not know their path, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
the people kind of being judgy of her for not wanting children, it was not in her path, right?
Yeah.
And just from a personal perspective or personal experience, when I had my first child, my son, I
Mhm.
remember, he was only about 3 months old, and there was a lady who was very career oriented, and she was speaking to me, and she said, "Okay, it's time for you to put him in daycare, and you've got to go get your master's degree, and you've got to have a career." And
Mhm.
as she was telling me all of that, I knew inside that that was not for me, and I didn't understand why,
Mhm.
but I
Mhm.
knew that I wanted to do the full-time mom thing. I wanted to be a
Yeah.
stay-at-home mom. I wanted to be there for him. I didn't really desire the path of a career.
Mhm.
So, but then way back then, because that's been almost 16, 17 years ago, I
Mhm.
was a little judgy of myself. Well,
Mhm.
should I put him in daycare, and why am I staying at home, and I'm just a mom, and I don't have a career, and I'm not out there making a difference in the world. All of this stuff, right?
Mhm.
So when Maggie first did my chart a couple years ago, and she showed me that I've got most of my planets down in the houses of home, family, and children. So if you look
Oh,
at my chart, most of my life energy, most of my focus was going to be centered around my home, family, and raising my children,
yeah.
not really towards going for a career, right?
Uh-huh.
Which was
Mhm.
why it didn't feel right to me at that time. So I
Mhm.
just that's one of the biggest things, like, from this. We really can't judge or look at other people's choices and say, you know what, she should have done this or she should have done that, because
Yeah.
people are usually following the calling of their soul, even
Yes.
if they don't know what specifically they are.
Right. So we have all these societal norms and demands from us, but our calling is different. It's not always in
Right.
alignment with
Right.
what people in society would expect us to do or think that we should do. And maybe in this woman's chart, hers was very much career oriented, and
Right,
that's what she was to
exactly.
do. And that's how she felt so passionate about it for you.
Exactly.
But that was
Exactly.
not what was resonating with you at all.
Exactly.
So
Right.
we have to really remember to listen to our hearts, and what we're destined to do is not necessarily what another person is destined to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So this is so interesting. Thank you for sharing all that with me today.
Yeah, you're
Um,
welcome.
so how do people get in touch with you if they're interested in getting a astrological natal chart done?
Okay, well, they can visit my website, which is brandikahn.com.
Okay.
And, they can go to the readings page, and they'll see the choices, like there's the natal chart reading or an intuitive reading or a mediumship reading. There's also one, I think, as well for children, natal chart for children, that I'm offering. So it's
Okay.
on my website, or they can email me at brandikahn@yahoo.com.
Okay. And I will put all that information down in the link below or above this video, however it shows up on social media and
Okay.
YouTube, so that you guys can get in touch with Brandi. So thank you so much for educating us today about natal charts and the fascinating topic of astrology. It really is so interesting.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me here and allowing me to share this. I really loved it. I enjoyed this so much.
Absolutely. Me too. Okay. Well, thank you and have a good day, everyone. Bye bye. Until next time.
Bye.